The Sisters of St. Francis is a congregation of active women religious who have chosen to live the gospel simply and plainly in the footsteps of Saints Francis and Clare of Assisi. In this video, we'll learn more about the sisters, how they live, what they believe, and how they dedicate their lives to God through serving God's church and God's people. Inspired by St. Francis of Assisi to follow Jesus Christ in total responsiveness to the providence of God, the sisters embrace the evangelical life in community, striving to live the poverty of Jesus Christ and to proclaim peace in the joy of the Spirit. While the community was founded in 1922 for the purpose of teaching the children of Lithuanian immigrants, the property itself dates back to 1925, when the original motherhouse opened its doors. With assistance from the Sisters of St. Francis of Millville, now the Sisters of St. Francis of the Newman communities, the 22-member Lithuanian Sisters of St. Francis of the Third Order is formed in 1923. In 3 short years, the community had reached 59 members and was in need of a permanent community motherhouse. In 1925, the Whitehall Motherhouse is officially dedicated by Bishop Hugh Boyle, who christened the property Mount Providence.
I was 19 years old when I entered the convent, and I always had that desire. I had our sisters, our Franciscan sisters, in grade school and up to the 8th grade. Then I entered Notre Dame Academy in Cleveland, Ohio, and I had the Notre Dame sisters, but they never attracted me very much for religious life, but I always had that desire inside of my heart to give my life to the Lord. And that desire developed more and more as the years went by, and at the age of 19 I entered.
The first General Superior and Council are elected in 1929. St. Francis Academy opens in the Whitehall Motherhouse building in the same year, and is the first all-girls Catholic high school to open in Pittsburgh's South Hills. During these early years, the Academy served young women who felt a calling toward religious life. Students were housed in the motherhouse property and had to provide for their own clothes and books, as well as pay $100 for tuition and board.
At that time, Mother David was our principal, and it was because of her that I came to the Academy. I think she saw something in me that she thought would make a good sister. So she kept her eye on me, and that's how I came to Pittsburgh. And then in high school, I had, of course, a variety. I had Sister Mary Innocenta, who after school tried to teach me violin, but we didn't get too far. And the principal was Mother Loyola, very wonderful, special person, who actually, when I was a senior, caught me reading under the desk while she was teaching English. She saw I wasn't there. And you know when you get frightened, you get like, you don't know what, I couldn't put the lid of the, we had those lids. I couldn't put the lid of the desk down fast enough. But she walked around and just never said a word to me because she was an avid reader. So she knew what I was doing. She was a wonderful teacher. Who else did I have? I told you Innocenta. I had Sister Assumpta, who was very serious and very, I thought, holy. I had Sister Imelda, who was a short little sister. Actually, she was in charge of the girls after school and on weekends. So.
The St. Francis Academy building is officially dedicated by Bishop Hugh Boyle during the annual 4th of July fundraising picnic in 1941. St. Francis Academy served as a mainstay of Catholic education for 50 years, closing in 1991.
This was our chapel. This was our little chapel here. Then we had a little wooden chapel outside the door here. The sisters taught in our school when I was in the 3rd grade, and I was always attracted to them, especially to my 8th grade teacher, Sister Bernard, still wanted to be a part of them. So became a part of them, and I'm glad.
My favorite memories of this campus is the old wooden chapel. I thought that was such a simple Franciscan place. And we were the last group to make our temporary vows in that chapel. And then, because we did not go out as a first-year junior, the second year we sort of watched the chapel going up. In the second year, I can remember, I was in Cleveland, and we came back for the blessing of the cornerstone in the chapel. And I can still see us standing around that cornerstone, and as the chapel was blessed. And then, see, because there were so many of us, and we didn't have the dining room yet. We used to eat down in the cafeteria, and so it's. I like to see the pictures of the sisters, all in their full habits, you know, going down the road down to the we went down there for breakfast, lunch, and supper, down in the cafeteria, you know, in the academy.
The Sisters of St. Francis of Providence of God celebrate their 25th anniversary in 1947.
We used to have a pond, and when I was in the academy, that's where I liked to sit, near the pond. It was quiet, and actually it froze in the winter, and we were able to ice skate on it. But because of the people who began to settle or live around us, we had to drain our pond, so we didn't have it after that. After I finished high school, we didn't have it too long. I just like to sit outside. Most of the time, I sat outside. So those were my favorite places.
In 1955, the Mary Immaculate Chapel and the Motherhouse Annex are officially dedicated and blessed by Auxiliary Bishop Coleman Carroll.
I was terribly homesick, terribly homesick. I used to tease and say every morning they were changing where the chapel was, because the other woman that entered with me would take me a different route to chapel every morning. And I swore during the night they were moving it someplace else. So I always felt kind of lost, you know, trying to find my way around the Motherhouse. And everything was so different, just very different style of what I was used to. So it was all a learning curve.
St. Clair Hall was constructed in 1959 to accommodate prep girls, and the St. Francis Academy Activities Hall is completed to create added space for the growing academy.
We were given what was the old dormitory rooms that originally had been made for 4 people, and only one person was in there. So it was huge, because at home I slept in the hallway, so it was like a big old, I was living in a palace there, so.
The new Junior A Motherhouse wing, Assisi Hall, is dedicated by Auxiliary Bishop John McDowell in 1970. Among other features, the building adds 50 more bedrooms to the Motherhouse campus. In 1992, ground is broken to inaugurate the Motherhouse renovation project. Within a few years, the Motherhouse campus is transformed with a newly designed chapel, improved living spaces, townhouse convents, and hermitage buildings for retreats.
Well, our day was very busy. We got up at 5, and maybe we had 25 minutes to dress, and we went to chapel. And we said prayers together. And then we had a period of time that we called meditation, in which you were supposed to relate to Christ in some way and think about the life of Christ or whatever you chose, and then kind of bring that life into your life during the day. After that, we had Mass, and when I first came, we just had a little wooden chapel, and the Mass was in the little, and then we had breakfast, And then we had chores all day and classes. And then in the evening, after spiritual reading, we were able to do whatever we wanted. We were able to go outside and spend some time just talking until 8 o'clock or 8:15. We came back to chapel, said night prayers, and from that time on, we were not allowed to talk. It was called the Great Silence, and until the next morning.
The first Eucharistic celebration is held in the newly renovated Mary Immaculate Chapel in 1995. The Sisters of St. Francis of the Providence of God celebrate their 90th anniversary in Mary Immaculate Chapel in 2012. Embracing St. Clare of Assisi's words, "Confidently, joyfully, we go forward." The congregation's 21st General Chapter unites the USA and Brazil provinces under one governance structure. The next year, the sisters celebrate 75 years in Brazil. The Sisters of St. Francis of the Providence of God commit themselves to the evangelization of continuous conversion in the tradition of the Third Order Regular of St. Francis.
I think the beauty attracts me, trees and things such as this, and there were plenty of them around here. And then the friendliness of the sisters, the work that we were involved with. So life was just joy, was a joy. It seemed hardships I don't remember. Then for many years at the motherhouse here, I had charge of the mail room, so that kept me busy, day after day, and happy.
Called together by a good and provident God, they cultivate an intimacy with God that is nourished by Scripture and Eucharist for reverence for all creation.
My reaction was, well, this is a lot bigger than my home parish church, because I come from a small country community, and I was just kind of stunned that they called it a chapel when it was bigger than our parish church. But I was always fascinated by the windows, and especially the crucifix in the morning, during morning prayer, and how it would light up with the sun. So that was one of my fascinations.
Faithful to their charism, the sisters go to those whom Providence sends them, and conscious of the mission in the church, to witness to the kingdom by their lives and service.
One of our other blessings as a community is that every summer, every sister had to come here, and we would take a course for 6 weeks, and 2 weeks we would have to do service, help out, and I always chose the kitchen because Sister Magdalene would always make me a nice little evening goodie bag after kitchen was over, and then you were on retreat. But again, with this being together, like in the evenings, I remember we didn't have enough benches. So we always sat in a circle right on the ground and just pick up our habits and just sit down. And we would share things we learned at school and in our ministry. We would share our art, the way we decorated things. So being together in every aspect has been very supportive.
The sisters are instruments of justice and peace among those in need of evangelization, healing, and reconciliation, especially the poor and oppressed.
We opened up the mission in Brazil in 1938 at the request of Monsignor Pio in Brazil, because there was a Lithuanian colony. Many Lithuanian immigrants were there, and they needed spiritual assistance. So he asked our community here in the States to send some sisters there to start a mission among the Lithuanian immigrants. And that's how it began. We had 5 sisters, 5 pioneer sisters here from Pittsburgh that went there and began our community in Brazil. And then in 1942, they began the novitiate. We had many vocations, Brazilian vocations.
In simplicity and joy, there are signs of hope, for they believe that Jesus Christ is with us in the power of his resurrection. The journey of these last few years has been such an experience for the sisters as a congregation.
Our Franciscan spirituality will continue, yes, because it's kind of ingrained in us. And then my thing is you can keep learning and keep studying, and we are able to do that through a local program here in Pittsburgh with all the other Franciscan sisters and the Franciscan Federation, and just all the new things that are coming out as the scholars discover them. So that spirituality is in us, and to share it with others as we move into new ministries or continue in our ministries just in new places.
After a comprehensive study of resources, energies, and desires, as consecrated Franciscan women of Providence, they realized that what was before them was not simply a decision to sell the property, but rather a graced moment to recommit to what they are called to do and be: follow Jesus Christ, embrace the Paschal mystery, be gospel women, and witness God's presence and providence.
For me, I always had a love of St. Francis that I learned and was taught about in grade school from our sisters. But coming here, it was at a time when they were discovering all the sources of St. Francis, and just learning about St. Francis and the spirituality, and being able to grow in that. It was just a delight. And I was the first one to make, in our community, to make my final vows under the new rule that was approved in 1982. And we were a part of the helping with that as formation people. And just to see the rule for all Franciscans, third order Franciscans, come to light, that was something. So the spirit of St. Francis, and then the spirit of St. Clare, as more and more was discovered about her, and we started learning about her and her spirituality.
Then I spent 47 years in Brazil. Yes, from 1963 to 2010. I didn't have any idea what really convent life was. I loved our sisters, and well, I just wanted to give my life to the Lord. I thought I only have one life to live, and it was forever, all or nothing. And I'm going to miss the mother house quite a bit, because there's a lot of memories here. All of my formation years were here, as a postulant, novice, 3 years as junior professed, and then my final vows in 1956. And I taught here for 11 years, and at the age of 30, I went to Brazil.
Do you really want to help? And how much are you willing to give up to help? And would you have people along the way that you know that will help you do what is so important for you to do with your life? But you have to have support. You have to have people who are willing to listen to you and laugh with you and just work along with you. I think what you do is important, but I think how you do it is a little more important.
They know it may not be easy to leave this place they have called home for over 90 years. But in the midst of this experience, they are reminded that they are journeying to our eternal home, and that here we have no lasting treasure.
This space, I would say, is very sacred, very sacred. There's a holiness that you can't put into words. It's a feeling that you have when you walk onto the grounds into the house, and that it's so important to have that a sacred space to go to or be in, just to kind of regroup and refocus on life. And that's what I find here.
Well, shall we say, they had us working on the 3rd floor. And see, there were 15 of us that slept in that dormitory. It's a trunk room now. And it has these little windows, you know. In the summertime, it was so hot. We'd open up the screen to let more air in. And one night there was a bat, and oh God. And we wore those other habits, and so they had like a boyish haircut. And the bat was flying across the room. And I can remember this one sister screaming like mad, and she had the pillow on her head, and I said, "You could never get caught in that hair, there's not long enough," you know. But we had a lot of fun in our novitiate days, and I wouldn't trade it for what they have now, you know.
Presently, the congregation has 29 members ministering in the United States. Several sisters will continue to reside at the motherhouse property. Others have relocated to convent houses at Nativity Parish and other locations in Pittsburgh's South Park, Jefferson Hills, and Castle Shannon neighborhoods, where new congregations have also been established. Sisters missioned outside of Pittsburgh continue to reside close to their ministries in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York. The congregation's senior sisters in need of assisted living and personal care services are part of the Presbyterian senior care community in Oakmont, Pennsylvania.
But what I used to love was the day of retreat. The monthly retreats that we used to have as novices. And I used to sit under the tree there, and I used to try to contemplate the Lord. And I used to write poetry. The type of prayers, you know. And that's one of the memories that I cherish here, the quiet, the peacefulness, the beautiful scenery that we have here at the Mother House. And our chapel, our old chapel, which I still miss.
Beyond the United States, 45 sisters continue to minister in Brazil, with several missioned to Bolivia and Haiti.
What are we looking forward to? So does what we're doing help? You know, that ideal that we have. So the means are here to help. And the surroundings, the people around us, the work we do, it all helps, it all tends to one thing.
The sisters will continue to have a presence on the property, with several sisters living in the townhouses. The Franciscan Child Daycare Center, located in the former St. Francis Academy building, will continue to grow and thrive as it oversees the needs of over 125 infants, toddlers, and pre-kindergarten aged children under their care and guidance. The center will also provide before and after-school care and summer enrichment programs for school-aged children.
This home will not be destroyed, but somebody will use it for another purpose. You know, I hate to see it, you know, asleep, but it seems this is the way the Lord is leading us. And, you know, we promise to follow in the gospel and follow in His footsteps. And so you just march right along, I guess.